Welcome back. Welcome, everyone. 2024, going to give people a moment to arrive. There we go. Okay, it is the new year, and you all know what that means. It is an all new season of Teal Talk. Woo! My own hype person. The show that takes you inside the minds of subject matter experts in today's world of blogging and content creation. I'm your host and Mediavine's Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Jenny Guy. With a new year brings resolutions, new goals, new strategies. Who out here who's a resolution person? Are you pro resolution? Are you anti resolution? Say hi and tell us in the comments. But we are all starting the new year, new you, looking for ways to elevate our business. And it can be really easy to get lost in the sea of change between emails and meetings and planning and all of the different aspects that it takes to run your business as a content creator. It's overwhelming. And that doesn't even get into the rate of change that we face. When you're in the content creation game, it is a constant change. The only constant is change. And we're constantly adapting to new ways to make content, new trends, and new ways to reach people and touch their lives with our original content. So we're also constantly adapting to the changes the social media channels we use to reach our audience change, whether that's an algorithm shift or otherwise. So into today's topic, content creators' relationship with Pinterest is fraught, to say the least. It can be a great way to establish a brand, drive traffic to your website, especially early on in your publishing career. But going to get down to brass tacks, major changes to the platform have driven some publishers away. So the question is, what role can Pinterest play in your business in 2024? And fortunately, I've got the perfect guest to help me answer that question. Let's meet her. Welcome back to Teal Talk, Kate All.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to chat about all the things you just said. And I love you, Jenny. So, of course, it's like two friends just, having a Zoom call with a bunch of other friends watching.
I adore you, Kate. I'm going to read some very impressive things about her. She started on Pinterest way back when it was invite only. After a couple hours of setting up a profile to continue benefiting from the engagement she noticed she was getting in 2012, and watching the changing landscape of social engagement for blogs over that next year, an idea sprouted that maybe this Pinterest channel could be a whole new ballgame for not just her and her friends, but content creators everywhere. Just over a year later, on the first day of 2014, Kate started Simple Pin Media with little expectation, but within a year and a half, she had a full-fledged business on her hand, staffed with a small team aiming to help service providers learn the methods and tactics that work to help them scale to an agency model, boutique or plug and play. In the 10 years Simple Pin has been up and running, she's done just that, taking, as she puts it, all the wisdom, tips, lessons, failures, and stories to help you on your service business journey. She's a powerhouse of information and strategy and a fantastic blogger in her own right, and just a lovely, lovely human being. Kate, I am so glad to have you back here on Teal Talk. Let us talk Pinterest in 2024. But to start out with, tell us a little bit about how you got into Pinterest and how you turned it into a full business.
Yeah, I feel like when anyone reads a bio, it's like, this is so impressive. But the journey to get here was fraught with a lot of things. I will say, having my experience in blogging and then going into Facebook marketing, one of the things I knew at the time back in 2012 was that bloggers were churning out content. Like, they were really coming on the scene and figuring out how to get in front of people, and Facebook made a way for that. It was really, really easy to drive a lot of traffic with a link to your website. It was great. And then in 2013, Facebook changed, and that's when they opened the way for ads. And so all of a sudden you saw these business pages just completely like shut down overnight. And since then, in this last 10 years, we've seen similar things happen with Google or with other platforms. So at the time, I was really I knew what the struggles were of a blogger. Like, I knew that they needed to monetize with traffic. I knew that they needed people at their doorstep, and they were relying on these places that kept changing. Well, when we went to Pinterest to test using it, it was like, oh, well, this is still happening, right? Because it was the chronological feed was still there. It was great. And so I started to kind of put two and two together, and I thought, well, they feel very confused by it because, one, it's a new platform. to it feels like it's just for personal use. So a transition from personal to business felt like such a big leap. And so I understood it and could see it. Maybe I could just do it for them. And so really when I started Simple Pin Media, it was these 3 first beta bloggers. And I said, hey, let's just try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, just pretend it never happened. And it worked. And people were like, wow, I'm getting traffic. I'm replacing what I got from Facebook. And then obviously we have 10, 15, 20 iterations of Pinterest since then. But that was really the main motivation. And I still hold true to that today is I understand that a business owner, a content creator, you have a lot on your plate. Like there's not, and even more so than 2012, right? Like 2012, it's like Facebook and Twitter. Like nobody was even using anything else. Now there's like, what are you going to use? And so anyway, all that to say, that still fuels me to say, I think Pinterest doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think it can be a part of your marketing suite of options, but knowing how to put it in its place, use it in the right way is still, I think, just a big driver for me.
I love hearing that. And I love that you went straight at the fact that there have been about 15 iterations of Pinterest since 2012, 2014. Can you give us from a high level what Pinterest looks like today in 2024? What's new? And I also want to say hello, everybody. Thank you for saying hi in the comments. We are so glad you're here as you're trickling in and joining us. For you, for our audience, have you ever used Pinterest as a meaningful traffic driver on your website? Do you still use it? Tell us in the comments. All right, Kate, Pinterest in 2024. Where are we now? What's the landscape?
Yeah, so I would say where we are now is we have so many new features, but we still have the same kind of vein of how it works.
Okay.
Pinterest is still search and discovery. It's not social media, and they have no interest in becoming social media. They want to be the outlier that says all these other platforms that feel very toxic, feel very all consuming. We don't want to be that. We want to be the thing that helps you curate your life through search and discovery. So I love that that has not changed. What has changed is that we have a new CEO within the last 18 months. He definitely has a different flavor. He's from Google, he's from PayPal, a lot of e-commerce experience. So he's looking at, okay, if all these people are finding products and they're discovering things, are we making the pathway to purchase pretty easy? And that's been a thing that Pinterest has really struggled with. So even though some content creators right now might not have a product, whether it's digital or physical, Pinterest is saying we want to take those content creators, and when they do go into the physical space or the digital space, we want to make it easier for their people to purchase it or to just find that product alone. So I would say new product integrations are definitely hitting the scene. We have verified merchant, we have product tagging. There's a lot there as well. I would also say that in the past 4 years, I think they've wrestled with this identity crisis of, okay, TikTok is getting so much share of the social love, right? Can we bring some of that to Pinterest to keep people here longer? Because people visit Pinterest a couple times a week, whereas people visit TikTok a couple times an hour, right? So Pinterest is like, okay, how do we keep people on the platform a little bit longer? So their first solution was idea pins, didn't have a link, really frustrated content creators. They pulled back on that completely, then kind of fused video pin and idea pin together. They've been confused about that over the last year. I know I had idea pins leave, and then now they're back, and then now they're gone again. So video is really where they're focused, short form video. And I think they've had a little bit of a tenuous relationship with that as well. But now they're like full steam ahead, create short form video. It has a link. We want this to be a place where you can showcase your content or your products. So that is pretty new right now. I will say they're growing in users. I think they just hit 498 million, which is great. That's pre-pandemic levels, like they're growing higher. And I would say in general, they feel very still true to their nature, which I love, right? Like I love that they're not trying to be TikTok. They're saying we want to stay the search and discovery, which I think is so good for content creators because they know that people still have to find a pin and come to your website. They're not interested in hosting all the content on the website. They're interested in surfacing ideas and letting people go find them. So that for content creators should be still great news.
Yes, it's gold. I mean, the model and the way that you just described it sounds like a peanut butter and jelly to the way that content creators want to drive traffic to their websites. So, with that being said, I talked when I first started about the fraughtness of how content creators have interacted with Pinterest. I think it all revolves around with any of these social media platforms or Google or
Mm.
anything that's external, a third party platform that content creators are leveraging. How are they rewarding content creators? What role does content creators play in their overall vision? And how do you think that they're manifesting that really great vision in 2024 to support a content creator?
Yeah. I think one of the ways that we see it is that if we look at we take all of our clients, right? And we look at ones that are continuing to create new content. Like they're really first and foremost trying to serve their core audience on their website, right? They have obviously goals of using Google and all these other things, but
Sure.
they're creating content, right? Those always grow at a faster pace than people who slow down at that. And when I say that, I don't want anyone who's exhausted because burnout is very real, right? Especially when you've been grinding this out for years on your small business. But I will say, if we look at the data and new content getting like a lift for an account, like it's kind of like it's fueling over there on the platform, then we say Pinterest really likes new ideas and new things to hit their platform. They don't want the ecosystem to be saturated with stuff that people see over and over and over again. So in that vein, I think they love new content. They love anytime people add stuff to the platform and they're saying like bring it here, but we're not going to keep it. We want it to go back out to you.
Love that driving traffic back out to our content creators. Okay. So we've got a new CEO. Last 18 months, things are changing, but it sounds like they're returning to the roots or at least being more vocal about that.
Yeah.
With all that being said, idea pins, video, why do you think now is a good time to either start looking or re-examine Pinterest as a serious way to increase and diversify the traffic on your site? And I'd like to divide it into people who've never used Pinterest
Mhm.
and maybe people who've broken up with Pinterest.
Yes. Okay. So let's take the new, right? So if I'm starting a business today, or I've started it within the last year or 2 years, one of the things that's a main struggle is that before maybe we could have a main website and people could find it. Like they could either find it on Google or they could find it in these other places. But now we have to pull certain levers to get them to come to our site. And that's very frustrating, right? Like I remember the blogging days where people would like comment on each other's blogs. Like that's
Yes.
done, right? Like we're past that. So you have to use a tool to bring people to the doorstep, right? So what I like about Pinterest is if we look at the whole landscape, let's say this content creator has been leveraging Google. It's very similar to how you leverage Pinterest. There's not a whole lot of changes. So getting good, you've already gotten good at keywords. Now just getting good at Pinterest images. And now you kind of have something that kind of flows together. This is what I would do if I was in somebody's shoes who was new, would be those two things. I think the tension is that we're easily pulled into Instagram and TikTok because it makes us feel good. Google and Pinterest don't always make us feel good. It's like, oh, I'm like slogging through and nothing's happening. And when it comes to Pinterest, it's going to take 6 to 9 months to really see good forward movement if you're new. You might have some outliers that do pretty good, but there's not a lot of dopamine hits to say, oh, this is working. It's awesome. Whereas on Instagram, you might get a like or a comment or something like that, but it's might not drive a conversion, right? So I think the two are, it's difficult there. I would also say to that new person, decide why you're using it. Like if you've invested in Google and now you're going to invest in Pinterest, are you investing in it for that traffic piece? Like, and making that kind of the pillar, the thing that you go, okay, I'm going to invest in this. And to remember that small business owners have to do this all the time, right? Like the local person on the corner is trying to figure out like, how do I drive traffic into my shop? And that doesn't take a couple times. It takes like repeated action over and over. So I would say new person, I love Pinterest for the traffic driving option. I think it's great. And I think it aligns well with what you're probably already doing with Google. Okay. jumping to those who've broken up.
We broke up with Pinterest. We need to be talked back into it. All right. Tell us how we can get back in. Why we should.
Right. Okay, here's what I'll say. In the last 10 years, I've seen it's an every 2-year wave. People fall in love with Pinterest. They think it's great. Something changes. They go back to Google. They hate Google, so they fall back in love with Pinterest. So it's this like wave. We're in a wave of people falling back in love with Pinterest. And what I would gather is that they still have really great Pinterest stats in their Google Analytics. I would gather to say that they probably never really lost momentum, but they lost maybe investment. And I think when we get frustrated with Pinterest, and I too have been there, like right now, we're kind of trying tons of different things because our traffic is lower than it's ever been. And we're going, okay, how can we uncover some things that maybe we didn't know before? Or how, and this is really important, I'm only looking at my data. I would never take what I'm doing with my account, which is a B2B account and very small niche, and compare it to somebody who's in a larger niche. So number one, if you're going to get back into the game, it's fine for you to listen to somebody else, but you've got to have tunnel vision with your people. Like it has to be, what are my analytics? What are they clicking on? How can I create more or use different keywords, change up my images? That's going to be key. I would say too, like you don't have to use Pinterest, but if you are already using Google and you're already using, maybe even you're leaning into YouTube, like the search and discovery aspect of those 3 platforms to be powerful traffic drivers is, I would argue, essential to your business. Like whether or not they ebb and flow, they go up and down, you're not going to be up and to the right forever. And I have seen people in 2017 have great traffic, and then in 2019 they're really upset because their traffic's gone down. Every platform's been like that. It's like we see the high of TikTok and then all of a sudden it goes down. That's just how it works. And I would also say don't reject ads. Like a lot of, I think, people when they get into Pinterest marketing, there's this belief that if I do ads, Pinterest is they're going to know, and they're going to pounce, and they're going to cut off my organic traffic. And that's not necessarily the case. Like there's ways to take a really high converting post that you have, put a little money behind it, and kind of see what happens on Pinterest. I think we're much more willing to do that on Facebook and Instagram than we are on Pinterest. There seems to be this like a waterfall. It's like the waterfall, it better not run out on Pinterest. And if there's even a drop missing, I'm out, right? I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I'm just saying like evaluate your why, go back to why you use it, and then start changing up some things. And then I'll reiterate it again, focus on your own analytics and your own niche website. Like that's going to be your best, like true north. Like don't look at anybody else.
Okay, a lot of great. That was a very loaded answer with so much.
It was.
So, in terms of, I want to come into analytics.
Okay.
You were talking about Google Analytics. So, are you typically using, when you're diving into analytics, are you using Google, or what are you finding in Pinterest analytics? Because that would be another area that's been fraught.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Pinterest analytics has been up and down and all around. I will say in 2024, it's better than it's ever been. I will say there's a lot of good information you can find in there. So we use both. And especially with this switch to G4, I don't know about anybody else, but I went kicking and screaming and still have a little bit of kicking and screaming in me. But when we use Google Analytics, what we're really particularly looking for, especially for like my account, is if I use Pinterest to grow my email list because I'm doing a lot of how-tos, I'm looking for the conversion side on that. Like how many people actually hit the thank you page to say that they did sign up for something in particular. So then when I do go to run ads, I know that I can track that in there. And I know G4 is hard. Like I haven't wanted to look into it for ages, right? But even just setting up that simple thing, that's the conversion that I want, I would say that's been awesome there. The other thing is when I look at Pinterest analytics, there's outbound clicks and there's saves. And I would say those are the 2 most important metrics to look at. Now, I think also there's something to be said for some of the other ones, like, but they feel very like there's like engaged something. They've added too many almost that like, I don't really know what this is. A lot of people do look at the monthly viewer number, and I have been a big like throw it out. but I'm actually kind of even looking back at it and saying, I wonder what I can learn from it. I wouldn't say that it's a number that I can necessarily drive direct conversions from. Like the monthly viewer number that's on your profile that you see right before your follower numbers, it's an aggregate of 30 days of all metrics. So when it says like monthly views, that's not necessarily meaning that you got traffic, that much traffic, or that it's just kind of a comprehensive number of all 9 of the metrics that Pinterest has in their analytics. They've gotten better at video, showing your views. Like there's just a lot of great things with that. And video, I would say what we're seeing with some of our clients who are doing video, they are doing pretty well. Like when they kind of marry what they're doing on other platforms and pulling that in.
Okay. I'm going to come back to video in a second, but I want to. So, from the analytics standpoint, we're looking at outbound clicks and we're
Yep.
looking saves. I also, just side note, feel like we need a GA4 support group. I think we all have a lot of issues with GA4.
We
We've had
do.
episodes where we talk about it. It is a whole situation.
Yep.
But circling back to throwing some money behind the Pinterest animal. How do you recommend starting that out? And I want to just state it here. We are not, you are saying you have not seen the spigot turn off when somebody starts to organic, when somebody puts money behind Pinterest.
No, we haven't. And part of that is because, okay, there's 2 different things. There's promoted pins and Pinterest ads. When you look at the promote on a pin, that's a promoted pin. And I always want to like identify with what my audience is wrestling through. And
Mm-hmm.
so back in September, I was like, I haven't set up a promoted pin in ages. And we have an ads director who usually does a lot of that stuff for us. But I picked up my phone. I was like, I know this has high conversions on my website. So I grabbed a pin. I promoted it for like $1 a day for 30 days just to mess around with it. No, I don't even know if I did it right. And I actually probably think I gave Erin, my ads director, a little bit of a heart attack. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just doing this down and dirty. Like you sometimes have to just like get through the barrier of fear and just do it. Like $30. I didn't even spend all my $30, probably because I set it up wrong. But what was interesting is that we did get about 6 or 7 conversions off of it to our email list, got a lot of impressions, and I really didn't notice a whole lot of a difference in traffic. Like once it turned off, the great part is once it turned off, it's still there. It's not like it's that particular pin is going anywhere. Whereas a Pinterest ad, I can create something fresh and brand new, and I can really get detailed with the targeting, get into the nitty gritty, get into interest, and figure out like what I want. And I will always tell people ad dollars is not like a slot machines, right? Like it's not like you're at the casino and you're like, I'm putting in 25 cents, like cross my fingers. It's real intentional to say, I'm going to put in 25 cents, but I might make $1, but I know where I'm making the dollar from. So I would never tell anyone who's just running for traffic. Like it's very hard to track with that. But I have not seen in any of the examples that I've looked at, people actually losing organic traffic. In fact, one of our ads clients who does like a hardware company, they were getting so much, they ran ads and they went with another company because the company told them that Pinterest sucked. And so they came back to us when they realized they were getting tons of great organic Pinterest traffic after they had run their ads. Came back to us, turned on their ads, and then ended up with like a $3,000 sale from like Jessica Alba of all people. Like
Whoa.
it was crazy, but it's like, okay, they ran ads, it lingered, and then they did it again, but they knew their purpose. Like ad dollars will never fix, like they say, a broken funnel, meaning like it's never going to just automatically make people fall all over you and be like, yes, I'll take everything because you spent ads. So it's one of those things I tell people, if you're afraid of it, do what I did. Pick up your phone, go to a pin. You can always turn it off, but it's just getting over that fear of it. And I just don't think Pinterest isn't Facebook. I mean, that's a really important thing to note is I think a lot of principals Pinterest gets a bad rap because they're like, well, Facebook did this. Well, meta is meta.
Meta is meta. And I think that's a whole other live series of episodes to talk about. But the new CEO of Pinterest is not Mark Zuckerberg. So
No.
we're okay. So in terms of testing out, with putting some money into Pinterest, you recommend not going in for something general with a general goal like traffic,
Correct.
but going in for a specific goal like growing an email list.
Mhm.
And then you say ads, you like the idea of creating brand new content to showcase there.
Yeah, well, and when I say brand new content too, I would say like brand new image, but I already know my landing page. Like that's been in existence for a while. And you can even take some of the data you have from organic and you can say, okay, I pinned these to my like way to get 15 recipes or whatever in my like cool ebook. I know that it's working, so why don't I try out some new images and see how they work with the ads conversion? Like maybe they need to like dial it in a little bit more and get a little more context. And then you can see, you can test those side by side. You're targeting the same and then know that you're driving it towards that conversion of getting people to buy whatever it is you want them to buy. So I think that it takes a while to ramp up on that side too as well because Pinterest needs about 2 to 3 weeks to figure out how it's going to distribute, which can feel very frustrating because you're like, well, I'm spending money. Where, how's it going to work?
Figure it
But
out.
yeah, but once it clicks and you're like, oh, now I know how this works. Let's keep adding money to it.
Do you recommend it being just a steady stream of money? You mentioned with your hardware company that Jessica Alba stands, apparently that you are paying for, they paid, they walked away, they came back. Do you recommend a steady flow of ads? Do you recommend stepping back? How
Yeah, we've had both. It all depends on the client's goals. Is we've had some food clients who sell food products and they're really going to hit the ground running in July. Any kind of a holiday ad needs to be started in July to try to get the momentum. And
okay,
then in January they might just turn it off because it's not their gift basket season, if you will, which is totally fine. But if you have an evergreen piece of content that somebody can really um get into at any time, you could run it all the time if you wanted. There is an option in ads to do like run your budget continuously or stop it when it ends. I never do run budget continuously just because I will forget. So if you don't
fair.
want to overspend, then do when your budget runs out, you're done.
Okay. Got a great comment from Amy Sugarman. I think for food bloggers, especially, it's an ideal platform to invest. Not only does it drive traffic, but it helps you not put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to diversifying your traffic sources. We all know every platform has algorithm changes. So, aside from investing in email, keeping your portfolio of traffic well balanced is key to success.
Yep. Amen. Mic drop.
All right, we're going to get into I want to get into some nuts and bolts here.
Yep.
We've got a great question from Sonia that I'm going to pull in a moment. But before we do that, let's talk video.
Yeah.
You said it's the hot thing. It sounds like what Pinterest is asking content creators to create, which means we're prioritizing it in search results. Talk more about it.
Yeah. So Pinterest is kind of like a late bloomer with video. I mean, it always felt like a speed bump in the beginning. People were like, it's kind of like a comment on Pinterest. You think, is this real? Is this a spammer? What is this? Right. And so when we saw video, people asked the same question. It felt very intrusive. But
Mhm.
with in the rise of 20 and 21, we saw so much short form video come over. And actually, because Pinterest is really the only platform where you can categorize and save your ideas, we saw a lot of people categorizing and saving TikToks and they were like exploding on Pinterest, right? Because
Yep.
people are like, I want to remember this. It's a great hack. And that's what Pinterest is like. They want that like aha moment. So then now they've kind of come into their own where, okay, now we have our own video circulate on the platform. We want more of that. And so when content creators can create short form video less than a minute 30, we do see great interaction and people wanting to know more. So if it's a recipe, obviously like a minute 30 is not going to give me enough context to make a bread, right? But if you show me the steps and I feel like I can do it and I feel like I have ingredients, I'm going to click and I'm going to come to your website. And that I think is what we're going to continue to see off of Pinterest. And also one other thing that we've tried is we've tried doing short form teasers to our YouTube page. So
Oh,
I would have said probably years ago, never, ever, ever do that. But we started to see some good conversions and app to app integration felt okay that other people were trying it as well. So if you are trying to grow your YouTube channel, having a short teaser on Pinterest that goes to YouTube is definitely something to try, but still drive the majority of your traffic from your videos to your website. That's just like a little bit of an extra.
Um, Yes, always funneling people back to where you're going to get paid for that content. What is the sweet spot in length? You said up to 90 seconds. Where are we really hitting?
Yeah, I've heard recently that the hook is really like 3 to 5 seconds, right? And they're always going to play in your feed. If you scroll through on your phone, you'll see that they're going to start auto playing. If you can get people on that hook there, it kind of doesn't, you don't want to go too long, but you want to give enough after that hook to keep them around, because Pinterest users, when they're in deep, right? Like they're really searching for something. So I would even argue that 30 seconds might be even better, because if they're looking for a certain type of bread recipe, or even if they're looking for home decor, they're in gather mode. Like they want 100 pins saved to their board in the matter of an hour because they're looking for ideas. So don't stretch it out too long to where it's boring, but keep it just in that hook. 30 seconds is really kind of, I would say, the magic sweet spot.
Love a magic sweet spot. Okay, so we've got a 30-second video. Are we producing videos specifically for the Pinterest platform? Are we adapting things from TikTok, YouTube? What have you seen most success?
Yeah, adapting. That's kind of the workflow that we use too. So I would say there's two things before you adapt. One, Pinterest video has to be something that can be evergreen and really not about you. But that doesn't mean you don't show your face. Showing your face is still getting good engagement on Pinterest when somebody's talking about something or walking people through it or narrating or whatever. But you can't, it's really hard if it's like a daily type of thing or a question type of thing that you would do on Instagram. So if I was going to ask people, I did this yesterday, like, tell me what you want out of a Pinterest mastermind. I can't put that same reel on Pinterest because I don't know who I'm talking to, because Instagram traffic is warm and Pinterest traffic is cold. They don't know me. They're like, why are you asking me this? I have to get to it another way through like a how to. So if we have a video over on Instagram that might be like, here's how to set up your profile in 4 easy steps. You betcha. I'm going to download it and then I can repurpose it onto the other platforms. Sometimes I'll even just record on my phone. We'll add a little bit of editing to it. We'll download it raw, so it doesn't have a watermark or any of the music or anything like that. And then we can put it on the other platforms.
Okay. What is the preferred format for video pins, says Namely Marley.
The format, is that like the size? Because I do not have that in my brain right now.
That's totally fine. We can follow up on that. So, but
Okay.
you're utilizing things from your phone, you're downloading it raw, you're adding some branding to it, light editing, and then going from there.
Yeah, exactly. Making it really easy. Like I will record in the video in my phone and send it to my team. We started using a tool, Opus AI, that we really like because it automatically adds captions, or we take a longer form piece of video and we can chunk it up into little pieces from there. But I don't know the exact size, but
We can do a little research on the
phone
aspect
size.
ratios. Phone size.
Yeah.
It's the size of my phone. Tiffany
Yes.
Brown says video clips have been amazing for my traffic gains to my website. My most popular
Mm.
crochet patterns are all ones that have a video clip on
Yes.
Pinterest.
100%. Cause like I will get mesmerized, especially crocheting. I'm in deep. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so fascinating. And then I'm watching somebody create this thing, whether it's sped up. And yeah, that's incredible. I'm not surprised.
Okay, we're going to get into a couple more things. We've got some high level questions here, but Giselle said, is Pinterest mostly for food, travel, or home?
Great question. So Pinterest says there's the top 5 niches, which is right around food, travel, home, beauty, and then DIY. But there's so many more examples of people getting great traffic that are outside of those niches. And so it's really all about like, you might have a niche that is a B2B like mine, or it might be B2C, but you're talking to somebody very specific. And so it's important to look around on Pinterest. I think that's huge. If you're wondering if Pinterest is right for you, a couple things: search your name, search the topic of the things that you talk about, and then go to Pinterest Trends, which is trends.pinterest.com, and see what's there already. I think you will surprise yourself. There's a guy on LinkedIn that I've been talking with back and forth. He's a motorcycle bike rider, like I don't motocross, right?
Mhm.
He's crushing it on Pinterest.
Wow.
He's doing videos of things and he's talking about merch, and he like messaged me. He goes, "Do you think," he's like, "I started over there because I wanted to beat my competitors, but it's actually working. Like, do you think I can also drive videos to my YouTube page?" And I'm like, "Go for it." And he's doing So good, because Gen Z coming up, they might not care about those big top niches. They're caring about a lot of different things. Like my girls are 18 and 17. They use Pinterest all the time for like Marvel comics and memes. And they don't want the Instagram of the world because it feels toxic to them. They want Pinterest because it curates. So with that, there's a lot of different things that you can get into on Pinterest, but those are always going to be the ones with the highest numbers. So there's that.
Well, yeah, I mean, for now, things could change as our next generation comes up. So Ashley Majeski Smithson says, do you think Pinterest could help an entertainment website? Have you seen any success with that?
Yes, we have tried out that a couple of times. And I will say the number one is if you can nail your images, if you can really hook them in, and the why, I would say short form video would be great for that as well. But I would say it's a little bit cautious as far as like too much timely stuff that goes away right away, because we have also worked with like a larger entertainment site. And one of the things that we've really had to hone in was awareness of the site. That is most important, right? Especially when there's so many different types of them out there. So it's kind of getting to the vein of like why this is your source for entertainment, or why this type of genre of, I'll say, movie or TV show is important. And then that's how you kind of have to start and move out from there.
So I'm hearing you say that it's very important to lean into your key differentiator as a brand and also get to the point fast about why this is something they want to learn more about.
Exactly. It's going to be, and that's the way of our world right now, right? Is that people, what that's like retention
Attention
rate?
span, two
Yeah.
seconds, 0 seconds,
I know.
precisely.
Point 5. So I think it's also really important to know that when you're going into something and you're trying to see if it's going to work, remember that 6 to 9 month rule. You're throwing spaghetti on a wall and you're like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Keep going, because all of a sudden you're going to start to see a pattern emerge, and you can like follow that vein and just really create more content for that.
Yep, you'll see where the success lies when you dig into those analytics. You'll see who your people are, and not just getting, saves for the sake of getting saves, but getting people who actually are the people you're wanting to drive back to your site.
Yes.
All right, Sonia, is there a maximum number of pins per day that you should do, or is there no ceiling? I've heard that Pinterest recommends only 30 per day and not more.
Yeah, I love this question. And it is probably one that I get most all the time whenever I do any of my own stuff or I'm teaching. So when we go a number of pins per day, it's all contingent upon content. So I will say if you're new and you don't have a whole lot, 1 to 2 per day is fine. You don't want to do a ton of 30 of the same thing per day. And that's really what we're trying to avoid, is that when people go to your profile, which is rare, the first thing they see is everything you've created. So we have gone into people's profiles who are new, and it's like 30 to 40 to 50 of the same thing, not all pinned on the same day, but it's back to back to back. So we do like to cap it, if you have a lot of content, right around 30. We've heard from people, like I was listening to a guy do a talk and he was like, yeah, we pin 100 times a day and we've been marked as spam a couple times. And like, really? Like, surprise. So what you're trying to avoid is that's the threshold, like 50 or more. Don't go that route. You want to keep it within what you think is going to really serve your audience. And if one day it's 10, if one day it's 5, it's not a deal breaker. There's really no hard and fast number. We've done anywhere from 1 to 3, because we've heard theories that, hey, less is more, and people started pinning less and they got great traffic. We've done as much as 25, and really there wasn't a whole lot of difference. I would say the less for us didn't work out as well, but our sweet spot is right around 10 to 15.
Okay, 10 to 15 is good. We've got people in the comments talking about different, some people pinning up to 100, some saying 30.
Okay.
Eva said, should we only publish fresh pins and publish them to one board only, or repin pins to other boards as well?
Yeah, great question. So fresh pins is just an older term for just like your new latest content. So how we do it is, let's say our podcast went out yesterday, we have a blog post with it. We use Teal as a scheduling tool. And when we do that, we schedule it out probably one every 7 days. You can do that with Planoly or Later or Buffer or whatever. You can do anything that you want. but we do about 7 days to different boards. I've heard this theory pop up that only publishing to one board. I'm not totally sure where that originated, but my thought is I want it on boards that match the keyword of the actual pin. So in that sense, like, don't stop pinning. Don't just pin once and then like stop pinning. That's kind of an old rule from 2020. There's a lot of confusion around that, but sometimes I'll even, and then we'll go back and pin them again, but we just don't pin them all at the same time. So, and I'm not your type A gal. I'm a type B. So I'm just like, let's see how this goes. So some people want like a really hard and fast rule. So I would say leave about 7 days in between and just try it.
Love trying it. Okay, namely Marley is back. Can you discuss scheduling pins? Some say not to use a scheduler like Tailwind, but to use Pinterest's native scheduler or pin manually. And you just said use Tailwind. So
Yeah, I would say that's a theory that's been around for a long time. And it really originated back when Facebook had said they don't like third-party schedulers back in like 2017. And so it kind of attached itself to Pinterest. And there was this belief that if you used any outside scheduling tool, that you would be marked as spam or you would be dinged. But now we have a lot of scheduling tools that have the API and they're approved partners with Pinterest. And so using one of those is great because then Pinterest is like, yeah, use the scheduling tool. We've tried testing it. I would say we've done it 5 times manually versus using the scheduling tool. No difference. I think this is when you get into the weeds of like somebody teaches what works for them, but we've taken and done 5 to 10 accounts at a time and there's no difference. So for us, do what will actually get you pinning. And I'm not going to pick up my phone. And I don't like the Pinterest scheduling tool a lot. Their native scheduler, you can't go, I think it's more than 30 days. So I don't like that. That's preference.
And that's okay. We are all different strokes for different folks. Isabel says, what's your opinion on asking friends, family, and colleagues to pin, comment, and heart new pins you're putting out? Do you find that manufacturing some early engagement helps a pin take off?
Great question. I would say from what we've seen with things like Facebook share threads and what we've seen with some communities as well, where people will share or group boards, we haven't seen an advantage to this. It feels like more time than it's worth. You could try it with a couple of them, but honestly, like, you want the people who are actually searching for your content and engaging with it to be the people who engage with it. And so you don't know if these people are within your niche. Plus, a lot of these Facebook share threads, they don't have reciprocity really linked to them. It's like, hey, let's do all this sharing. And then like some people don't, or they pin them to really crappy boards, or they pin them to like a junk board. So for me, it's never been something that we've tried to do. We've only ever done group boards with a small amount of people where it's kind of in the same niche, same keyword, like being very clear on that. But even then it's not super advantageous. Have your own boards and then try to garner your own engagement. I think one great thing for this is if you have an email or even if you have Instagram, call to action those people. They're your ideal people. You could say something creative like, hey, I put together a board of all my recipes for St. Patrick's Day. And if you want to find them and save them for later, go over and check out the boards, save some of them, and then let me know if you want me to create more recipes for St. Patrick's Day. Not only are you generating engagement, but you're also saying, I see your pain point that you really care about St. Patrick's Day. So let's talk about it.
We all deeply care about St. Patrick's Day.
I know. I was like trying to get holidays in my brain. I was like, which one's quick?
It is. It's coming. It's right. Molly said, I recently heard that Pinterest doesn't like us pinning other people's pins. Most confusing thing I heard about Pinterest. Should we just pin ours only?
Here's what I'll say about that. The ecosystem of Pinterest is that everybody's pinning other people's pins. That's all the time. So you can, as a business owner, I don't recommend it as a strategy because I want you to get your stuff out there. But Pinterest has really never really come out and stated like, we don't like it. They've said, hey, pin your stuff. And really it's more of an allowance. Like, don't worry about other people's, let the ecosystem on Pinterest do it. And you just pin your stuff.
Okay. We actually have a couple of questions in here about Pinterest management, scheduling tools. We have a pin generator in order to be able to create a bunch of pins fast. Any recommendations there?
Yeah, we've tried them all. And in fact, my team has said, can we please just create our own? Like, we know what we want, but I'm not interested in a software company. I would say still, we've tried Planoly, we've tried Pin Generator, we've tried Tailwind. Tailwind's still top of our list. It's just kind of the one we always use for our clients. We have tried Buffer. We're going to try CoSchedule next. I don't know much about that to see if we can lean into it, but um, really it's all about efficiency. Like if you love Planoly for like Instagram and you want to try out their Pinterest feature, do it. See how it works for you. It's really just going to be what's your favorite.
Okay, in the last part of Katie's question, which you just addressed, either scheduling tools or where to begin to hire it out. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to hiring out, number one, obviously you need to have the budget for it. Like you're ready to really pass off that because you want to gain time back. That's the number one reason you hire out Pinterest management is either you're so confused by Pinterest, you hate Pinterest, or you just need to get it off your plate. Then I would say number two is look for the experience that someone has. Ask them what type of education they've taken, what type of courses they've taken, how long they've been in business. Ask them their philosophy about Pinterest because there are a lot of different philosophies. You can ask them if they use scheduling tools or if they don't. Like, really, what you're looking for is will this person caretake and curate the things that are most important to my business in order to help me reach my business goals. And if we're not in alignment, and you don't want to micromanage somebody, so that's not why I'm telling you to ask those questions, but you get to the heart of the why. And then if you feel like you can hand it off, do it. But if you're in that point where like you really love wrestling out strategy, you really love figuring it out, clients who come to us will say, this does not sound like a good fit because we want the creativity of our team to be able to run and pivot and do all these things. But you kind of like that too. So when we both do that, we're in tension and like you don't trust us and we don't trust you. So that's a big thing with Pinterest management that I think people don't bring into the equation. It can be super valuable. We know, obviously, we manage for a ton of clients, but you just have to be in alignment. And that's a really important thing.
Okay, let's talk about what you do and how you work at Simple Pin Media because we have a very special offering today for some of our readers.
Yes. I would say I've kind of wrestled with this over the years, but like Simple Pin Media is first and foremost like a Pinterest agency. But our goal is to really help take what Pinterest is talking about and disseminate it into a way that you can understand and implement it. And I'm not interested in anybody chasing rabbit trails, wasting time, whatever it is. So that has gone into a podcast and then gone into our digital products that we have and then our ads membership. So we wanted to be kind of this done for you, done with you, and then DIY. So one of the things that we have for people is an audit, like an audit from our team. This is not a like, auto-generated audit or whatever. This is actually one of our team members goes in, looks at your account, gives you feedback and says, here's the things that I would do if I were you. And these are people who have managed hundreds of accounts over the years. So we have the link for that at Simple Pin. You go to our audit, you can get 50% off an audit. This coupon's only good for about a month. I'm sorry, I don't remember the date, but it's MV Pins for the coupon code. You can put it in there and then our team will get that and they'll begin working on your account. They'll connect with you and then we'll build out your audit for you. So at least you know where to start and where your next stepping stone will be to really grow on Pinterest.
And where are some of the places that we can connect with you to find more information other than getting a great audit?
Right. So we actually we started doing Ask Us Anything Tuesday on Instagram. So I would say if you have questions, go there to any of our Tuesday posts. We answer those. And then the Simple Pin podcast, it has been 7 years in the running. Like, I can't believe I'm still talking about Pinterest, but that's a really great place to start to just to listen to how I teach and my philosophies and how we're going to help kind of carry people into 2024, which feels like the wild, wild west on Pinterest. So my job is to be like, let's take it down a notch. And we're going to give you some really solid business advice that you can use for your business.
Love that. Love action items. Speaking of those, we're out of time, but before we say goodbye, we always have such a wonderful time with Kate and we still have more questions. So we'll do our best to address those. We're sharing links in there for that 50% off an audit from the Simple Pin team. But in the meantime, if we are stepping back into Pinterest, starting with Pinterest, where would you recommend we start? We start our attack.
Yeah. So I would say if you're just starting out, we definitely have a start series for you with 3 videos, simplepinmedia.com/start. So there's that. But I would say pick up your phone, open the Pinterest app and just look. Like just start using it. I always find that the best marketers are the best users. So if you have not used Pinterest in a while, just open it up and scroll through. See what it is that stands out to you, why you would use it, and that's going to help you really connect with your future pinners, if you will, future people coming to your site, and kind of break that fear of confusion. That's a big thing for people when it comes to Pinterest. And there's like, I don't understand. That's usually because you don't understand how it works and you haven't used it. So go use it for 10 minutes.
Fantastic. All right, we're all going to be opening Pinterest on our phones. We have all the places to find Kate. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a wonderful conversation. Go get your audit. And a huge thank you to all of you for joining us. If you are joining us live, if you're catching us on the replay, we appreciate you. Let us know if you have thoughts for future topics or guests that you want us to cover. And we hope you have a fantastic Thursday. Same to you, Kate.
Thank you. And same back to you.